for the delays. 9 minutes have passed from the time we're supposed to start. Kindly bear with our technical challenges, but we are glad to be here. And I can assure you that we already have the LC5 chairperson online and is ready to respond to our constant or hear what is actually happening within Terego. My name is Sylvin Gumisiriza. I will be moderating this session, standing in for Toko Godwin. For those ones who are able to see the advert or the communication, a number of things have happened, so he's unable to be in, but we can still go ahead and have the conversation. We are happy to have you. Those of you who have already connected, you could actually go ahead and share the Twitter Spaces link to anyone else that you know would like to listen in to hear what is happening within Terego and under LC5 chairperson that we have in Terego as Alliance for National Transformation, but also to learn a few other things of how the local government runs its business. And I'm going to go direct to the conversation. I'm going to call upon the LC5 chairperson to greet the people who are on all these platforms. Over to you, Mr. Saka.
Thank you very much, Sylvin. I want to extend my greetings to all those who are listening and watching us live on the Twitter space. And I want to say happy International Public Service Day today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to go direct to the concerns being raised, especially about the budget. We had the budget was read not so long ago, but I understand a number of things that do happen that sometimes we do not know or we do not take, we do not really follow up fully. So there are moments when the ministry or departments or agencies of local government are now having challenges to do with returning the funds. And yet, I think these funds are already were budgeted for. There were a number of things that were supposed to be done. Unfortunately, they seem not have been done, and now you're required to send the money again. What's the game there? Why would we have to get money requested for and then returned back?
Thank you very much, Sylvin, for that wonderful question this evening. One, I want to start by probably throwing a ballistic statement that there is a war between the local governments and the central government.
And unmute your Twitter Spaces microphone.
Yes. As I said, is it okay? It's freezing.
Go ahead, it's unmuted.
Is that okay now?
Yes, it is now unmuted.
Yes, as I said, we have a silent war running between the local governments and the central government. And this is in terms of resource control and resource usage. Sylvin and our viewers, you should be in the know that districts used to have their personal district accounts, bank accounts. As we speak now, we are talking about something called the single treasury account, which is controlled by Ministry of Finance. And that means we all run one single account controlled by the Ministry of Finance. And
Let me suggest this. Again, you have fallen off on Twitter Spaces, but let me use my device at the same time to make sure that
that will be better because
communicate.
my phone, I think, keeps freezing.
Okay. All right. Cynthia, is it possible for you to unmute the host so that he can speak through the host, or I unmute this side?
Let them manage it. Sorry.
Kindly manage it from your side.
Okay. That means
Sylvan, I can do it on my side.
okay, much better. Okay, go ahead now.
Yes, as I have just said, we have a silent war running between local governments and central government, and probably also between ministries, agencies, and departments and the Ministry of Finance, arising out of this one single treasury account. At the end of every financial year, the law provides that by 30th of June, funds which are not utilized must be swept and they go back to Kampala. Whether they are committed funds for ongoing projects and for other software activities, they must all be swept and they go back to Kampala. And the law provides that in the course of the subsequent financial year, the funds should be returned to the districts or entities that were in the process of using this money. The law is a little bit weak in the sense that it says in the course of the financial year, and the Minister of Finance can decide to give back this money to you on the 25th of June, and you are supposed to use it in the remaining like 4 or 5 days. One typical example is what I am talking about, Dr. Deep funds. Operational funds were released the day before yesterday. By 30th, they will be returning. So that is where I am saying this has been a gimmick employed by the ministry to make sure districts do not use the funds. Two, the districts have been attached to what they call district support officers, meaning when you warrant your requisitions or when you upload them, the district support officers, based on the Ministry of Finance, are the ones who choose whether to pay you or not, whether to pay you immediately or they take their own time. And sometimes 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, they have not picked your requisition. It is a very, very grave mistake and error that is making districts to return money. So what is the problem? The problem is from the center. The problem is from the center because all that has been put in place is to restrict local governments from using funds. And that's why districts, in most districts, funds are returned at the end of the financial year. And also I want to take this Twitter interview to prepare my people of Terego that they will be returning money. Now there's no question about it. They will be returning money because we received in billions. Parliament revoted the funds on 5th of April. Ministry of Finance took another 1 month. Said with districts on the 1st of June. My technical team warranted these funds immediately on the 1st of June. They took 3 weeks to approve the warrants. So this brings you closer to the end of the financial year, unless you are a miracle maker, you can't use such funds. And for sure, we're going to return money, including monies for salaries. And the confusion also came from the ministry. Sylvie, are we together?
Yes, we are. And
Yes.
I wanted to find out now, when that money includes money for salaries, what does that mean to the funds or to the salaries that have not been paid, or the salaries that are in arrears, if that is not basically processed and money is paid to the respective owners who certainly deserve it and they need to be paid?
I tell you, payroll management is a process that involves very many entities, districts, and the salary earner, let alone the ministry itself. One, we are a new district. We are in the process of adding on more staff onto our payroll. The District Service Commission interviewed the staff way back in April, May, and they were supposed to be given appointment letters. My chief administrative officer tells me he received instructions from the PSST, that's the permanent secretary and the secretary to Treasury, Minister of Finance, that issuance of fresh appointment letters should be stopped to pave way for validation of staff. And this validation has taken extremely long, unnecessarily long, more than 2 months, meaning staff who were recruited could not be given appointment letters and therefore could not access payroll. And that means the money which was supposed to be used for paying them is going back to Kampala. Meaning the services they were supposed to provide to the people of Terego is not provided, so the people have remained unserved. So that's where the problem is.
So that basically means you're not going to have employees, and you're not going to give services to your people. What is the state of the district therefore?
Of course, the money will return. We'll have to go back and negotiate. You see, now it is like district begging from the ministry. You have to beg, use a lot of English to say, please return this money. We recruited, we had not issued the appointment letters. Now we're going to do this. Can you please give us the monies back? And that is negotiations. They call it negotiations. You must actually seek permission. We must seek permission from the Ministry of Finance to proceed any further. That's the challenge local government is going to, especially we in Terego.
So one more question attached to that. Does that negotiation include some elements of parting away with some money that they might need, or it causes such extent of a discussion where you've got to compromise some levels and decide to say a certain percentage you can basically take it, but at least give us some money to take care of our people? I don't know why not.
In Uganda, if you want your things to move very fast, you must be able to tick. And I don't want to speak about this, but certainly the delays are unnecessary. The delays are very unnecessary, and you have to wait for their nod to say, yes, finally you can proceed. But of course, sometimes this can take like 1 month, 2 months. And probably what I forgot to mention is the fact that when the funds were swept last financial year, especially USMID funds for ongoing projects, one of which is our first flood at the district headquarters. Because the law says the funds will be returned in the course of the next financial year, these funds were swept in the first week of July. we received them on the 1st of June. And these are monies meant for capital development construction. You can't squeeze construction within remaining probably 20 to 25 days. That will be a disservice. You are attracting short work on your company. And because of that, we are certainly returning the money.
That is very strange. That is very strange, Chairman. Now, I want to find out, do you have the decentralization guidelines? What does that policy say? Because I understand, at least I need to be guided if that's not true, that we are in a decentralized system. To what extent are we a decentralized system if such elements are still being under the control of the central position, the Minister of Finance?
One, the document or the legal framework for decentralization is what we call the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act over time has been amended, and this amendment is towards weakening the local government and of course weakening the districts to deliver decentralization. Local Government Act has been amended. It has been amended to make sure you have chief administrative officers that were recruited by districts who are now recruited by central government. And that speaks huge volumes of what is happening. A chief administrative officer appointed by the central government much more takes directives from the ministry, the chief administrative officer. Meaning, anytime he knows he can be transferred after disorganizing you. Two, you have the local revenue. The local revenue, today as we speak, the amount districts sub-counties generate local revenue, they must submit it to the central treasury, which is Bank of Uganda. And again, it is the ministry that will start disbursing this local revenue back to the districts. So what are we really doing? I am raising my small money here to support my activities. You still want it to go to Kampala. And for it to come back from Kampala, it takes time. There are also bureaucracies. The red tape is too long. So we are arm-twisted. Three, you have the appointments that are done in local governments. They are approved at central government level. You nominate district service commission, district council approves it, they pass final entity that has a say on this is public service commission. If they have not approved, you not proceed. Equal the district land board. We used to have the district tender board, which they now call contracts committee. They removed the mandate from the local governments, from the LDC5 chairman appointing a board. It is now technically done by the chief administrative officer. Sylvian and the viewers, let me tell you, there is a lot of interest in procurement, too much interest. Actually, if a chief administrative officer is transferred and actually comes newly, the first question you will ask is, the first person he will want to meet is procurement officer. And the first question will be, which are the projects that have not been contracted out? And what happens? They are interested in Zaulo, percentage. A contractor, before he signs his contract, he must declare a percentage that you will be declaring today, the executive and the procurement. So all these are things that used to be done at local government level. They have all now been, the powers have all gone to the center. You also have the finance, the public accounts committee. The public accounts committee of the local government of the district. It is almost a toothless institution. Because my perception was that this is our local institution that should be mandated to look at the balance sheet. That should be able to look at the account, the bank statement. That should be able to handle every complaint. Like a citizen feels there is a problem, he could easily run to PAC. But this mandate is now given to IGG, which is controlled from Kampala. IGG, which is more of a political tool. And the moment the cows know the common language with the IGG officials, even instead of going, if you go and accuse anybody there, maybe in person of cow, these IGG guys will go and start asking the reverse of the question. If you tell them, hey, this money is lost, they will instead go there for the accountant. But who approves the money? So those are areas where local governments are really being rendered useless. Even as we speak now, local governments never buy cars. If Terego wants to buy a car, the permission must come from the Ministry of Finance. So these are the dilemmas where we have got ourselves in. But because we have the zeal, we want to do work, we shall continue to do what is possible. And of course, that's how the termites also have tried. They would want to even eat the stones, but they have failed. Normally what they do is to make the ant hill on top of the stone. Back to you, Sylvain.
Chairman, I am not sure I can really afford to be in your space because of what is basically happening.
It is a difficult thing, especially when an economy is run like a kiosk.
Let me ask some intriguing question here, because your response certainly sounds like you are, because maybe you are in that new district, you aren't yet used, maybe because you are not from the ruling party, that is what is the experience. You might sound more or less of somebody who is complaining, but let me ask a specific question here. Could it be that the ones who are probably progressing or not complaining because they are aligned to the current ruling party, or they also have the same problems, but they are navigating by majorly giving in what you call enjaro?
Thank you, Stephen. We came from NALI, National Leadership Institute, Changwans. While we were there, I saw drama for myself. One, I remember when the vice president who represented the president came to close the 1 week Musaka course. She introduced us according to our party affiliations. NRM, of course, they are the biggest. They are the mob. Now, the next was the opposition. We were also there. So she made a statement. She said, you NRM chairman who are NRM, you have a big task to convince these guys in the opposition to join NRM. I remember one chairman, I think chairman of Kalaki, my colleague of Kalaki, he stood up at the back bench and shouted, you guys, if you are comfortable where you are, please remain there. There is no merrymaking, no Christmas in NRM. What does that mean? People are not happy, but they are not complaining because there is something called the party discipline, which will catch up with them. And some of us are speaking because we know we are not there, the other side. We are in the free space where unless my Major General want to tell me not to speak, that's when I will keep quiet. Otherwise, I will keep speaking about these things. So it is not Christmas the other side. They are not speaking because the environment is not good for them to speak. Let me tell you, LC5 chairmen, actually local governments, I want to say, in this country are rendered as useless institutions that are there for politics, but not really for service delivery. Our president has ever met even artists in this country. He has met artists, he has met circle groups, he has met everybody except the LC5 chairman. He has never met them. And these are the foot soldiers on the ground. Local governments are the face of government. A person has a problem like even this afternoon. While I was coming for this interview, this conversation, I was called because a mother had collapsed on the compound. What did they need? They needed transport. If central government matters so much more than local governments, I'm sure that call should have gone to central government or probably to the members of parliament. But the nearest people to the nearest of persons to the people are the local government leaders. And for sure, that shows that we're the face of government. We need the resources. And then that takes me to the issue of the budget we have passed. What kind of budget have we passed? It is a deficit budget. There is no excitement about it. You have heard everything about it. Out of 52.7 trillion, 17 trillion is going into paying debts. It is going into paying debts. The other time I heard the president, when he was talking, he was blaming the past government that they accumulated a lot of debts. But I think that was far-fetched and far from the truth. If there are debts that have been accumulated, I think we need to own it up. This regime must own it up. What about the HIPIC country? This concept of HIPIC, I thought those debts were already cleared. The bilateral companies, they wrote off some debts. I think these all debts were already written off. The debt we have at hand that we're going to service is our own debt we have accumulated under this roof called NRL. So we must own it up. The moment we start quarreling the way he was quarreling with the past, that means we have lost focus. We are now all time looking behind, and that means the focus is not there. It is a problem for this country. It is tragic. So we must own it. This budget is something which is there to, when you are taken to the hospital, the drugs are not there, but they must keep you on a Panadol, which reduces the pain. So this is a budget to reduce the pain, and it is Panadol budget. If you look at the balance which remains, if you deduct 17 from 52.7 trillion, the balance which remains, if you also look at the allocations, the State House is taking the lion's share. I mean, the defense, 3.4 billion. So where does that take us? Is that a productive allocation? Is that a priority? Do you know why it has gone there? It has gone there because under defense, under internal affairs, there is what is called classified expenditure. And that's where our people dip their fingers up to the elbow to swindle resources. And that's the biggest tragedy for this country. So we shall do the small things that we are able to do with the little that comes. Of course, local governments are getting, this is like less than 10% because our slice from in total is 5 trillion. That's like 10%. But in the other countries like Kenya, our neighbor Kenya here, it is even a policy that every financial year, local governments should not get less than 15% of the budget. But ours, when you get 10%, actually all the talk is we have sent money money to the local governments. And probably this budget, we're not going to be paying salaries for the civil servants. And maybe our luck as Terego will be, we host refugees, and there are programs that come with the hosting refugees. World Bank funded programs that the government is in partnership with the World Bank to implement. We have the Dr. Deep, we have USMIT, additional funding refugee window. These are all at our disposal as refugee hosting districts. And these are about 13 districts, Terego inclusive. And that is the only beacon of area where we have some bit of sigh of relief. Otherwise, things are not okay, Sylvan and our viewers.
Oh my good Lord. Now it sounds like it is a privilege or it's a benefit, so something of an advantage to host refugees because there's some little money that they're going to be working with to keep some work going on within the local, within your district and within the district of those that host refugees. I am wondering where the other districts are left, the ones that are not actually hosting any refugees. You might want to speak into that shortly, but let me add to this, to that same statement, where now all these concerns are raising, but we have got the parish development model. I'm wondering its prospect, especially now within Terego, and because we have had several other programs. We have had the NADS, we have had the Bonaba Gagawari, we have had the Myoga, and we actually doing the same wrong thing, expecting different results. Chairman, what is that about?
Parish development model per design is a good program that needed additional funding. But my problem is social funding. Social funding for parish development model is not coming from elsewhere. It is coming from the traditional sources of funding. Sleeping, it is just like you receiving money, picking money from your right pocket and putting it in your left pocket. What have you done? Have you caused any change? Certainly, the answer may be a big no or half yes. So we wait to see how much we achieve through parish development model, but for sure, it is touching on our traditional sources of funding. There is nothing new coming in. And I hope we shall succeed in this, because I am told also in this recent retreat in Changwas, it was a battle, really battle, between members of parliament and the executive in terms of where to slash this money. You see, they are looking within the traditional sources of funding to see where this money can be got. And it looks a little bit political. No wonder also NRM chairpersons at the parish level are members of the parish development committee, the one that approves. So the moment you mix those things of parties into these things, Sylvan, I am afraid we might not achieve much. That has already taken trend of politicking, and it might easily also turn to defeat the purpose for which this model has been designed. You remember that this is not, by the way, earlier on we had these things called parish development committees. And over time they had to go into limbo because we had no means to make them active. Each time, of course, parish development committees were supposed to identify and prioritize the priority, put in place the priorities of a parish, and is forwarded to sub-county, and sub-county would compile this from the various parishes and submit to the district. And the underlying philosophy was that the district would now provide resources to address these problems. Over time, there was no money to address these problems. People started feeling they were wasting their time to all the time go for meetings, do prioritization, forward their priorities to the next level. And at the end of it all, you have no solution that is coming your way. And the committees died. But my prayer is that this parish development model and the committees will be facilitated to the end, and we all have the biggest laugh on our faces. Yes.
Do you have things that need to be avoided? I understand maybe partly you are not in the system, or you were not by then the chairman LC5, because I understand Terego is a new district, but you might be having ideas of how either NADS or Bonawaga Gaware or Emyoga projects or programs were mismanaged. Could you be having some of the things that you think there are gaps to be filled that local government, the government needs to look into? And you also mentioned that the NRM chairpersons are currently part of the committee. Where does that put other chairpersons who are not necessarily NRM?
You know, the motto we have in this country now is not for God and my country, it is the winner takes it all. I am sorry our power went off when they struggle with the phone light. Phone light, I hope I still appear well on your screens. So the philosophy now is the winner takes it all. And that's what is happening. And for these other programs, you all know that their failure started the way they were pronounced. They came through elections, pronouncements came through elections, and that straight away makes the public form opinion that this is the money that can be eaten like election money. After all, the pledge came through elections. So I want to believe that this will not happen with the policy development model. The Imyoga, first of all, also has hit a snag. Repayment rate is too low. It is too low, and the funny thing is they told the people, the district people are thieves, they are not supposed to be inside this thing. Now, the people are saying, yes, you are the thieves, we don't want you, and they are doing their things on their own. Now, the things are beginning to backfire. They are saying, oh, district leaders recover money. How do we recover money? The first statement you made was harmful. It has given the beneficiary a stiff neck to resist the district leaders, the sub-county leaders, the thieves. Now, you're expecting the thieves back to go and collect the monies people are not repaying. That's where the challenge is. You see, these things, the challenge is we do not prepare our people timely. We do not really do the needful. They just come like a lightning. Bow, you don't expect for, you don't prepare for it. Like PDM, we kept waiting for guidelines and guidelines and guidelines. They bring this, the time you kick the ball in that direction, they have already removed the ball post and they're saying, no, it is the other direction. That the guidelines are going to be issued, new ones are going to be issued, and that's how it kept delaying. And even some people lost interest in those things. So the guideline came, but of course, people are now haphazardly prepared. There are moments even where districts opened accounts for the communities. Then the process was formalized, now signatures and so on of the really beneficiaries who were supposed to run these accounts were now fast-tracked with the banks later, after bank accounts were already submitted to the ministry. So that's going to speak to you a lot. Ownership somewhat left behind, then catch-up was done later, which I think somehow affects the process. Yes, back to you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I think gladly following one of the statements you made out of the experience you had when you were in that Mchaka, that one of the LC5 chairperson stood up to mention that it is not harmony this side, it is not a bed of roses. stay where you are, trying to let you know that as those ones in the ruling government, as LC5s in the ruling government, they are not any better. That I want to think that when you point out these elements or the concerns out of all these projects and programs and the way the government is being run and the way the government is basically working with you, you are not speaking for ANT per se, you're speaking for the people within your community, you're speaking for your district, and you're speaking on behalf of the rest of the LC5 chairpersons who find in the same state like you are. I want again to go back on the budget, because this whole conversation was centered on the budget. You actually mentioned that your people need to be ready to return the money, which certainly is out of the instructions that you're given. But I would like to find out if you have already received your budget, or you have already known how much you are going to get, even if in some way it might not really come in time, but at least to know whether you know how much of what you asked for that you're going to get, and how much of what you were given are you returning back. Then of that one that we expect to get, at least what is the plan to use it for? Over to you.
One, we are in the summary. The last time I checked was about 3 days ago. Because now, like the financial year is ending, we are almost like a pregnant woman who is in the labor suit. Whether you like it or not, she must deliver, and deliver either the child alive or dead, or she must also accompany the dead child and they get buried. So we are in a labor suit, trying to see which monies we can save at this critical moment. The last time I checked, about 6 billion in salaries will be returned. And also some other operational funds. This can take us close to 7-8 billion that Terego will be returning. Yes. So we'll be returning money, and some of them could be our weaknesses within the local government, but the major weakness is from central government. Conscripting conditions that make it difficult for free operation of local governments. Everything, permission, clearance from central government, ministries, agencies, and departments is a big problem. So you can't proceed very fast. And the most unfortunate thing is, as you might have heard complaints from certain quarters, when the new budget is read, you don't see these monies that are returned from local governments as source of revenue for the next budget. It also begs the question, where does that money go? Where does it go? It is a big question that we should be, as a country, asking. Citizens should be asking that question. Where does money which is returned from local governments go? Because the other side, it is not being declared as source of revenue to finance the next budget. Are we together?
Yes, we are together. We are together, and that certainly puts us in a very heavy state. It's a big dilemma in that situation. Let me go ahead and again be specific. At this point, are you, first of all, did you contribute? Did you share the budget of what you do expect? If everything was flat, okay, how much money are you supposed to be obtaining as Terego? And what exactly are the items to which you have tagged this money on the budget?
For the next financial year, we will be receiving, our total budget is about 40.16 billion from the various sources, Dr. Deep, local revenue, USMID, and the rest. That's the money we have planned. And we will certainly be very interested in achieving our budget 100%, but in most cases, we don't receive it 100%. Of course, that means you roll the priorities to the next financial year, and that's how we keep moving. So that is the budget for the people of Terego.
So what are your priorities for this money?
But our priorities in terms of expenditure, we would want to, first of all, infrastructure. The district is new. We need more resources to improve the infrastructure, both at the district headquarters and also in the institutions, schools and the health centers. And of course, roads. Roads, mark me on the issue of roads. We are the midpoint of West Nile and we want to have the best roads in the region. Why? Because we want to make connections. If we don't do this, who will do it for us? We are the midpoint. We don't have tarmac. If we don't put our roads to be the best, nobody will pass through Terego. Nobody will go to Terego. What we are struggling now to do is make sure to make a rural city unattractive for a person who is in Koboko who wants to go to Kampala. We want to cut a road that will go straight through Terego and it joins the tarmac at Pakwat. Here, a person in Koboko will have cut out a distance of 50 kilometers. So that is the only way we will make Terego attractive. I've already started telling our people they should mark me on this. The moment these roads are done and the bridges are built, they should not use these bridges for rumormongering to sing around NRM opposition. They must be doing production. A person from Koboko is heading to Kampala, probably has forgotten to buy water, has not eaten lunch. There should be some small kiosks along the road, food kiosks for selling water and so on should be along the road. And that is empowerment. And as I speak, the road works between the district headquarters and your base camp or Uriama sub-county headquarters is in advanced stage. I think we're already 50% done with a bridge of about 3.2 billion. We are doing it. And once this is done, a person from Koboko should be able to go to Kampala via Terego. And for me, that's going to be my preoccupation this financial year, to make sure these projects work out.
Thank you so much for that visionary approach to try as much as possible to figure out means of bringing revenues within Terego by working on the infrastructure, Mr. Chairman, in Terego. Now, I'm towards the end of this conversation, but I still have one concern to raise. You are not any close to the border, and yet you're hosting refugees. Refugees do not come out of fun, they come out of a situation that has happened within the neighborhood. We've had a situation in Kasese where a school was attacked and a number of students lost their lives. Many people are grieving and the situation is tense. Now, which brings me back to you, that even though you are not at the border per se, you're not any safe because you are neighboring districts which are near the border. When you're connecting with the rest of your counterparts, so your colleagues, LC5 chairpersons and security councils in the neighboring districts, how is it within the bordering districts that you share borders that are connected to the extreme borders with other countries? That is DRC and South Sudan at least. But how is the situation in terms of security?
Sleeping is very true. Terego is deep inside in West Nile, of course, the midpoint of West Nile. But our people have faced the brand of these insecurities. One, labor force is immobile. They keep moving to these areas to find life. Recently, I think this is like 3 weeks ago, we had an incident in in South Sudan at the border around the Lobe area. One of my residents in Terego has migrated that side to do farming. And unfortunately, he has two families. One is in the side of Uganda, one is on the side of South Sudan. This thing is called the livelihood. No, nothing about the boundaries. So the other side, the people organized and they wanted to take back the land, which is an ancestral land, which is owned by an Eringa, somebody from Wilfred District. So the first thing they claimed was all those who were the other side should be able to, I don't know whether it is called ground rent or what, should pay that. This fellow paid 250,000. He came back to his home on the Ugandan side, and they called him back. When he went back, what did not happen at night? Armed men came. They actually killed him. They abducted the entire family. And we buried him about 3 weeks ago. So this insecurity is for all of us, whether you're inside or you're at the border, it will affect you one way or the other. My observation is that our forces should really measure up to the task. What is the challenge? The challenge is we as a country, we now involve UPDF into petty things which are not in their job description. UPDF medical, UPDF engineering, UPDF this in wealth creation, UPDF in that. They now forget their core mandate of securing this country from this kind of things. I'm told the Kasese experience, the response was extremely excessively delayed. Why would this happen? Because they have forgotten their core mandate. They are now into things that are not theirs. It is confusion. Distribution of seedlings, seeds, pigs, that should be work of technical people who are trained in the field to do. And that is no wonder in our area here, you have a long dry spell which runs from the end of November up to March or late February. Sometimes you find the UPDF who are on the Operation Wealth Creation coming with cassava stock around October. What kind of agriculture is that? Bringing stocks just to dry, and that's where the problem is. Right people should be placed where they are supposed to be. So that's our challenge. I think the response was late. And I also asked the question, by the way, why did this thing happen the same week the Royal Guards were returned? What happened? Is there any connection? Is there any correlation? I'm not a security expert, but I think there is a problem. And what that problem is, the UPDF should be able to tell us. Is there any coincidence? For me, those are the areas where I'll open my mouth wide and speak about them. Insecurity is not something that anybody should be proud about. There are innocent lives that were lost. And I'm sure the kind of grief they have brought to these families is an everlasting grief. That's why we still continue to talk about Kichwamba. Kichwamba has remained fresh in our minds. And now this is another one. So it is terrible. And that is my take on this.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I really, really hear you, and that is so bad for a citizen, your district resident having now a challenge. I mean, not a challenge, but he's no longer there. His family is abducted, and he lost his land and he lost his life in the way while he was trying to find a way of living, some way of surviving and fending for his family. That's very, very dangerous. My hope is that whoever is listening in is connecting very well and is understanding where our nation is, but also whether they like you or not, especially those ones from the side of the ruling government. I hope some of the LC5 chairpersons are basically, appreciating your decision and your courage to speak out the challenges you are facing in general, because you're all serving the nation. Leave alone the elections. The elections, at the end of the day, we are all Ugandans. Now, I want to switch a little bit towards the end and ask you this personal question. What is it that makes you feel still attached to or inclined to Alliance for National Transformation when there is a big cake, a bigger piece of bread on the other side of the ruling government? Number two, when you meet some of the colleagues in LC5, on LC5 level and in NRM, when you're having a conversation with them, are they really, really candid, or they are there just because to survive? What do you think about their responses? If at all you actually hold some conversations with them. Over to you.
First of all, I think in the earlier first edition of this conversation said, my motivation of coming to stand for Chairman LC5 was not money. Much as I need money because of the volume of demands that are sitting on me, I don't think money was the one which drove me into this. First of all, as I had said this earlier, the salary I was getting with the partner I was working with is twice the salary of an LC5 chairman. And two, each year I was able to build or buy land. But this year, even what I've done, all these 2 years I've been in office, what I've done is to do fencing of my house, which I built earlier. So that is the mismatch in terms of the decision I took. So it will never be money that drives me to decide where to be. If it was money, I should have run to NRM straight away before campaigning, because that time they were facilitated very well. And we were using our own fingers to scratch around to see how to sail through. So the dynamics have remained the same in our minds, that it is not the money, it is what we want to offer to the people and what we want to offer in leaders. And for me, in Terego, the Living, are you getting me?
Yes.
Hello? Are you getting me?
Yes, we are.
So this Muse is still around. He's my inspiration. Actually, this afternoon, I paid him a visit. It's called Muse Donata Mabua, whom the people have cherished. I went to see him because today, as I said, is the International Public Service Day. And I'm happy to announce to you that UBC Radio, local in Arua, did a survey this morning. The presenter sent me a WhatsApp message and said, I was voted the best, they called it what? They called the term was what? Best public servant in that vote which was undertaken on the radio. So I went to him to re-energize myself in terms of the spirit to do better work for the people. So that is what drives me. And about my colleague chairpersons in NRM, I don't think there is anything better than joining NRM than me. In any case, I'm always proud to say there are opportunities that I've got which are bigger than what they have so far gone through. At least last year I was able to move to Europe, courtesy of Alliance for National Transformation. And that one, NRM will never forget from her LC5 chairpersons. And last week, a huge conference concluded at Munyonyo, what they call IGAD EAC in the ministerial high-level conference on durable solutions for the refugees. I was among the 4 LC5 chairpersons selected to participate in this conference. Very many were left out. So it is not about the party, it is about the capacity and the power, the brain power to do work for the people. What was in this conference? In this conference, Uganda is a co-convener of Global Refugee Forum, which will be held later this year in November in Geneva, co-convener with the UN. So what were we in Munyonyo doing? We are building our position as Uganda, as East Africa, as IGAD region states. What will be present, what this region will be presenting in Geneva. And this meeting was attended by 12 ministers who are handling refugee issues in their respective countries: Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, Sudan herself. These are 12 countries. So we're in this meeting. And for me, this was a very good exposure. And I think we did not go there to just enjoy the chairs and the cool AC in those rooms. We made contributions. So for me, it is not about the party that you belong to, whether it is big or small. It is about the values in the party. And I'm happy Alliance has those values better than another party. Time management, God fear, those values are extremely good. And you are a leader, you observe them, you are good to provide better leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. That is very, very much encouraging. So it is not in vain to join Alliance for National Transformation or to join a party seen to be small or seen to be not having funds, but it is the question of the heart that makes you decide where you really want to go. We are grateful to have you, Chairman, as the only chairman within this season, yet you are stuck with us, or you're stuck with ANT, even when it looks as though there is not much. It is a question of the fulfillment of the heart when you are serving, and there is appreciation on the other side, or at least between you and God, you know, you're doing your best, you're fulfilling your purpose while you are on earth. Now, when we are coming towards the end, I did not get anyone wanting to ask a question or make a comment, especially on the Twitter spaces. And I am going to give you an opportunity to make some recommendations, give your final remarks as we close this conversation. Over to you, Mr. Saka Wilfred.
Yes, Living. Somewhere my connection went off, power returned, so many things trying to happen in the middle. I didn't get what you are talking about. Did you ask me a question?
Okay, let me respond again. I was suggesting that one, I was appreciating you first of all for the fact that you have decided to stay with ANT minus the challenges you're facing, and you find a lot more fulfillment because you're serving your people and they are receiving the services. Whether or not they say thank you, at least you're doing your best. The other one was to ask you to make some recommendations or give your final remarks, because I've not seen a question coming through. The beauty that we have been able to be here for over now an hour and about 10 minutes that have passed, and we will certainly get back to you at some point in time to keep having updates with how you're running the government that side, because this is our benchmark of how LC5 chairpersons should be running. So you can make your final remarks to everyone who is listening to you.
First of all, to strengthen local governments, my proposal would be central government should be at least release their fingers on the grip that it has on local governments. If we are to talk meaningfully about decentralization, the issue of funds being transferred to local governments is too small. They need to increase it to a percentage well above 15% of the national budget. Two, local revenues that districts and lower local councils collect should not really go to Kampala and then it starts another journey coming back. This is time wasted. This should be reversed. This thing called the single treasury account should really be removed. They're able to manage them. Other than they collect, the money is not there. In fact, a month ago, the Honorable State Minister was she told us she actually said there is no money, that the government is broke, that if you want something to be done, you have to go to the principal, His Excellency the President, and tell him probably a lie that Mr. President, if that problem is not sorted, people are about to demonstrate. That's when people that activity. So resources should be sent to the districts. I am afraid there are some people in the government who I think have I don't know what term I could use, who have no experience in handling the offices they are handling. There is one person whom I'm told is in charge of manifesto implementation at state house. Is called, I think, Galabuz. My colleague chairpersons actually put him into order to either to apologize and revoke his statement, or he leaves the podium, and he had to apologize and revoke his statement. What did he say? He said the LC5 chairmen are disturbing cows themselves. Actually, government is better off working through LC5 chairman, through the cow and the RDC. Money can be sent, cow works, implements the activities, then the RDC monitors. So really somebody who is in the state house, very esteemed office in which the fountain of honor sits, speaking recklessly like this. First of all, he needed to throw away the Local Government Act. Two, maybe bring proposals to Parliament to make sure the position of LC5 chairman and district councils is scrapped off. Then he brings in the other obnoxious arrangement, and that's when it will work. But that's to unilateral declare that this is the best arrangement. I felt this was a little bit reckless, and that kind of mentality is not good for this country. This thing of sweeping funds is a monotonous and idle arrangement. Because I have committed the funds, somebody is constructing a mega structure, a storied house, I have made commitments. I have a running contract with this person. Why would you want to take away this money? The money should be available for this person to be paid. And if this, we need to, the parliament needs to look at this. I have already said others about the contracts committee. The contracts committee needs to be reviewed because the chief administrative officers are more interested in their cronies. They will put people there who dance to their tune, and that's the first form of corruption. Because people who clear contracts just anyhow because the chief executive has put them there, if they don't clear, they will be removed. Is a terrible thing. So this must be changed, and we need to move to a better thing. By the way, in the Local Government Act, I've seen they have not changed the name to Contracts Committee. They are still talking about the Tender Board, which is a contradiction. That must be removed. I hope my members of Parliament are listening to this. If they don't, maybe we shall have to take a petition to Parliament to wake them up to say, guys, there are gaps in this document. Even in the Local Government Act, they are still saying all civil servants working for the district are supposed to be recruited by the District Service Commission. I hope the civil servants include the Chief Administrative Officer. Those are things, amendments that should be quickly done. Public Accounts Committee, I also already mentioned about it, that one, the committee needs to be expanded in terms of mandate to accommodate any complaint without when it has come through the internal auditor or not. They should be mandated to handle any complaint. Like for me, if I feel I have no time to get to the bottom of an issue that I suspect there is a problem, I can ask them to say, please investigate this area and support them with my sources of, my slightest suspicion, things that can back up the suspicion. So for me, that's when the Public Accounts Committee can be useful. But waiting for reports from internal auditor, reports in most cases can be doctored to suit interests of some individuals in the service. We shall never make any headway. That for me are the proposals that I will be able to say. Lastly, the issue of centralizing everything, almost leaving decentralization followed, is not a good thing. Districts should be allowed to recruit cows themselves. One time when RDC, he saw rest in peace. Later, Brigham made a statement. He said, this money which are swept away, the cows take this money, like these ones from here, take the money to Karuma, and then the bureaucrats from Kampala come to Karuma and they share this money and they go each direction. Each one goes its own direction. So it would be better for districts to recruit cows than central government. Why would it? First of all, if a cow does something wrong, and or if he doesn't do anything wrong, he has the capacity to take the district to court. Where is the problem? They are being protected for a reason. These guys are colluding with the Ministry of Local Government and finance officials to pull away the small resources in the district. Envelopes going to these ministries. It is a big challenge. Actually, for now, if you and probably these are parts that have swallowed a lot of brown envelopes, becomes a problem. Thank you very much. That's where I can end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saka, LC5 Chairman, Terego District. We are happy that you were able to come on this conversation minus the technical challenges.
Did you say there are no?
I did not, just a second, I did not see any question really come through. So that's why I needed to close it. but some of the questions I
Okay, you can
basically
ask
asked.
you can ask one last question on behalf of them.
Okay. One last question on behalf of the audience. Let me make it rather personal. The situation you're
Go ahead.
facing does not encourage anybody who has got the heart for his people, the community, or the society in which he belongs, to feel like he or she wants to step up to carry the mantle of leadership. Where do we draw the courage from? What keeps you moving?
Sylvia, I want to believe that you are a Christian, and for me, I am, because that's why I moved with the rosary on my neck. Jesus came to the earth. He did not come for earthly things. He came to serve and to save us. And indeed, he has saved us. But his name has raged. It has never ended. We have continued to go to church. In our bedrooms, we have continued to pray because of the good things he did. Cardinal of which is saving us from the original sin. And we continue to take our burdens under the cross on which he was crucified. And for me, that is a petition, since a petition members. And the grand plan is, once they are removed, the next target is me. And I've told them this is mob justice, and the mob justice must be aligned within the law. What have the DEC members done? And this is not the district councillors working. This is brainchild of an individual who is now using the head of technical team to undermine the executive committee, and will continue to fight. It doesn't shake me at all, because Jesus died doing the right things, and his name has remained alive. If one day you hear that I am removed and my executive were removed, or we are killed, don't be surprised. Actually, be the happiest that you should struggle now to add our names on the list of matters in this country. We will continue fighting for this. Actually, the censor meeting, I think the censor motion will be tabled on the Tuesday. I think Monday, Tuesday, I have not packed the date here, because for me, I feel that's nonsense to occupy my head with. I have better things to think about. I have better letters to write to ministries, agencies, and departments that can bring small money for the people of Terego than to preoccupy myself thinking about a petition, which is nonsensical in nature, and which is masterminded by a corrupt person. A corrupt person who even stole iron seats for Karamonja. So why should they waste time thinking about that kind of nonsense? I want to do better things. I have better things to do for my people, better things to do that can give better name for my party, that on whose ticket I ran. So that one, don't get worried unless your life is all around money making. Please, if that is your lifestyle, don't attempt politics. First of all, the money is small, especially being an LC5 chairman, compared to what the members of parliament are earning. We are not done that. So that is said to perform. If they increase salary, maybe one day they will call LC5 chairperson scientists, and also add for them money. These days they say the scientists who are entitled to big salary, which I think is a miscalculation itself. Because in the primary, in the schools, people are now, secondary schools, they are now, arts teachers are now saying, let the scientists do the teaching. We shall do half of what they are doing, because what we get is less than what they are getting. So the job should not be seen in terms of money. The job should be seen in terms of making a contribution to the welfare of the people that you aspire to lead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman. I needed to ask you that question because there are moments when you're speaking and I'm thinking, wait a minute, do I really want to go back into that field?
You know,
Because
when you are bargaining, you must be forceful. I am bargaining on behalf of local governments. I have to be very forceful because that's where money should go, and that's where welfare of the people can be improved. Keeping money in Kampala is counterproductive. That's why you find now in this country, there are people who have more money than the government itself. And they move around organizing birthday parties. Some are pretending to be sponsors of football teams. When Cranes runs out of funds, they now run there and they say, well, the savior used this for flying out. When actually this money should have remained in the system to perfect the systems and make sure things are running very perfectly.
I hope everyone on call is listening and everyone on YouTube is listening and watching. We are glad to host you once again, Mr. Chairman Saka, Chairman Saka Wilfred, Chairman LC5 from Terego, and who contested and won an election on the Alliance for National Transformation ticket. For those of you who are on all platforms, it's been my pleasure to host Mr. Saka Wilfred. And Saka, you can be sure that we will get back to you for another session at some point, possibly around October, to see how it is running, especially after you have received that money or after they have probably denied you that money, and what you are basically trying to do in terms of serving the community that you're in. We hope that the censure will not come through, or even if it comes through, at the end of the day, like you've mentioned, the beauty that at heart you're satisfied that what you're trying to do is the right thing. It's been a pleasure to host you and a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you for those insights. Those of you who have just joined us, please follow up and take that recording and replay it. This gentleman is well equipped with anything and everything to do with the local government policy or act or law or anything you'd want to call it. And if you're interested in your country as a citizen, if you're interested within your community, you need to listen to what he was sharing. The conversation was just centered about the budget and the challenges to do with whether that money is received and why it is being called back, and if the allocated money really arrives, and everything to do with the Public Accounts Committee, the CAOs, their role, and if they are actually playing their role or they are antagonistic to what the local government would really want to do. And of course, checking and I want to appreciate you for appreciating some of the elements that are being worked on from your side as LC5 chairman, but also agreeing that there's a reality that even the ones who are in other parties, especially the ruling government, are not necessarily happy. It's been a good day for me to host you, and I wish you the very best of the evening. Have a good evening. Everyone enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much.